Ben here with Stu on the Lake. Hey, this is a fun deal here. I've been trying to get together. Here's Jordy Johnson, and Jordy said, "Ben, I want to do my gentler, kinder set. I'd like to try that watercolor painting, and but the paints are just so damned expensive." Well, Jordy's got all the material. Well, not the water material, but he's got the beach combing. There's a beautiful landscape he could do. So I decided I'm going to send Jordy a set. It looks just like my set. I want to make a duplicate. And I'm going to put it in a box like this. His box is in the corner. Here's mine. This is all my watercolor stuff. I'm going to give him the exact same paints, the exact same brushes, and a kit. And to include the tape and the watercolor paper, the whole 9 yards. And then I'm going to set him up with stuff. Here's a little tin of excess paints that my daughter handed me that she got from my mother-in-law. Said she's never going to use them. And this came about when Jordy bought the paint. I said that I buy expensive paints, the artist quality, professional quality. So we got him a box. I got him the same brushes that I'm going to have in there. And there's a spray bottle that he gets with that. And I'm going to keep one for myself. And then there's a wash brush, a cheap dollar wash brush. So we're going to open all these up and set them up. It'll be kind of fun. Jordy, hey, if you give this a shot, you don't have to film it, that sort of thing, but give it a try. Might work well for your other channel. It might work for interchanging here. I'm going to lead my watercolor series. I think I'm going to call this Jordy's watercolor set watercolor number 4, because I believe that's the 4th watercolor painting that I've put in. So we got a box. I'm going to send him I think 5 Christmas cards, because Christmas is coming up, and the Christmas cards are the easiest to paint. They're very simple. These are not folded, but here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe. I'm going to pull out of there, and I'm going to send him 5 envelopes. So he'll be all set up. And the envelopes are in the bottom. This comes in a kit. One of the, probably next year, we'll get around to it. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 envelopes. So like I said, it comes in a box. I think there's probably 100 in the box. I'm guessing. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But those are going up to Canada, to Jordy here in the next, try to get him out Monday if I can. We're going to build him a color chart that matches what he's doing there. And I'll send that along to him, and I'll make it the same as mine. He's going to have to get his own piece of cardboard. This is just the back of something. And if you remember looking back on probably number 3 watercolor, that was the cheap watercolors that I bought for $1.99. But I'm sending him a watercolor pad that matches mine. All this stuff came from Hobby Lobby, and I picked them up. So he'll get the paper, the kit, the cards, the whole 9 yards. And this video here is the setup that I'm going to send him. It's just going to be a basic setup. It's not a minimal palette. It's not special palettes. It's just colors of the rainbow. Roy G. Biv. I'm going to put those in these 2 palettes here. They're little cheap things. They're probably $4 or $5 a piece. They work out just fine. It appears that they've got 20 slots in them. I'm going to build 2 duplicate ones, because I'm going to work from the same palette that Jordy's working for, or has. And I'm going to do a series of 4 or 5 here in the next couple months of real simple beginner drawings, and it works for everybody else too. If you want to kind of try to stay along and paint along, I'll have the same. So I picked up a series of brushes that work well with watercolor, and again, I'm going to stick with the same brushes that I sent him. I kind of picked up duplicates of those, and they'll go in his box and get ready to go. So there's all my brushes. I'm going to have to segregate those out so that I make sure that I'm not painting with the brush or a color of paint that Jordy doesn't have in there. So if you wanted to follow along with this, you can follow the video. You can go out and pick up some paints. You can go pick up some brushes. I don't remember what this brush set was, probably $7, somewhere in that range. And they work out to be good watercolor brushes, more in the Chinese style, kind of a pointed nib thing, and we'll talk about those a little bit more as we go along. So we got some brushes there. Watercolor brushes are not necessarily expensive. A lot of folks like to paint with one or two brushes, and you can certainly get away with that. The Chinese Hake, H-A-K-E brush, I believe it's Chinese, might be Japanese, heck, I don't know. Jordy can figure that out when he takes his trip to Asia. But they're cheap brushes, and they work real well with watercolor. Here's another cheap watercolor set, and I'm going to pull several of these out and split them off on the side. So I'll quit talking for a minute while we put these brushes in there. And you see those ones I'm throwing on the side are going in Jordy's kit. The ones on the left are going in my kit. Here's another set. I think this one was probably $15. It has enough brushes. I want him to have enough brushes to get started and get going, and to have a whole kit ready to go. Now you can take this kit out when Jordy goes out, maybe goes out and set. You saw at the beginning there, he has some pretty great landscapes out on the beach there. Although a lot of those are pretty complicated to paint, but you can go out and do what they call plein air painting. So plein air means outside the air in French, I believe. And you take your kit along with you, and you take your easel or your board and your paints, and this is a perfect way to do it with one little kit. And you set up on a rock, or you sit on one of those trees that's too big to carve out there, and you do a quick, take an hour or so, half an hour, and do a quick sketch. Now, a lot of the famous painters used to go, and initially they would use watercolor because of the transportability of it, and they would go out and they would set up and do their initial sketch of a famous oil painting or a painting they were intended to do with the watercolor. So that works out pretty good. And here's a little live video as we select the paints. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we'll take a sheet of that out, and we're going to build a chart. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10. So he's got 5. I did too many. One too many. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, now we got 10 on this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. And we'll put the thumbprint in, just so we know which side. All right. So we're going to load 2 identical palettes and get ready to do that. So we need 10. We need 10 colors. So let's go with Roy G. Biv. So here's a alizarin crimson, and that's a red. Here's cadmium light yellow, and here's alizarin crimson. So 2 alizarin crimson. So alizarin crimson, red, and what do we got here? This is cadmium red. So those are 3 good reds. So we got red, Red, orange. So we need some orange. It looks like an orange. Cadmium red pale hue. We might use that one as an orange. So these paints all came from my mother-in-law's collection, who passed away 10, 12 years ago. She would go down and she would take art classes, and like every couple weeks she would go down and pay a lady and they would paint various different things, floral things. She didn't save any of her paintings, which is kind of a shame, and I would suggest that you do. That's probably one of my favorite colors, quinacridone red. So there's another red. Alright, so we didn't really get an orange in there. Let me check mine and see if I've got an orange. Burnt sienna. Cadmium orange. Alright, so there we go. So there's red, and we're going to narrow this down. Alright. So we're going to put the quinacridone back. We're going to go with the cadmium red. Make sure we got paint there. Yep. Cadmium red. Alizarin crimson, and let's stay with that. Alright, so we got red, orange, yellow. There's cad yellow light. Gamboge, I like that for a light yellow. And lemon yellow. We're going to pass on that one. Cadmium lemon. We might go with that. Windsor yellow. People like Windsor yellow. Let's go with Cad light, Windsor yellow. And we got another yellow here. Cadmium lemon. And gamboge. Lost it. Where's it at? All right. So those will work. Cad yellow light, Windsor yellow. So let's go with that. And then Cad lemon. Let's stay out of that one. Okay. So red. So we got red, orange, yellow. Roy G. Biv. So green. Green. So there's Jordy's favorite color. Hooker's green. There's another Hooker's green. And let's go with a sea green. And an olive green. Alright, so we're done with the greens. What's that? I don't know what that one is. Phthalo blue. Alright. So Roy G. Red, orange, yellow, green. Blue. Now blue, this is a phthalo blue. I like that. This is cerulean blue. Alright. And that's cerulean blue. And that's French ultramarine. I'll leave that out. Let's see what we got here. Permanent blue ultramarine. I might save that one out. Prussian blue. There we go. So Prussian blue. And then cobalt blue. And ultramarine. Sepia. Alright. So there's our blues. One's your blue. French ultramarine blue. I'm getting them narrowed down. What do we got here? Phthalo blue. We're going to stay out of that. Alright. Indigo. Chinese white. Beryllium blue. Antwerp blue. Alizarin crimson. Baby's gray. Alright, so there's a Roy G, R-O-Y G, B, indigo. There's a violet. Chinese white. Sepia. And indigo. So there's indigo. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Ultramarine violet. Alright, so there's our colors of the rainbow. Now we're going to add to that some sepia, some Chinese white, and some Payne's gray. And what else we got here? And some yellow ochre. Let's go with that yellow ochre. Magenta. Neutral tint, whatever the heck it is. Well, that's just a neutral tint. We don't need that. Cobalt green. Van Dyke brown. That can't hurt. Permanent rose. And ivory black. You don't need black. Okay, so there's what we got. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And we're going to add these in sepias and yellow ochres. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got one too many. So out of that one, let's take a blue away. That's cerulean. Prussian blue, cobalt blue. Let's take this one away. It's a phthalo blue. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we got 20 here. So let's start on Let's start right here. This one first. Alizarin Crimson. So we're going to go in both palettes. And then the remainder of this will go in Jordy's. And then we're going to do that all the way through here. Okay, so we got Cad Red. All right, so we're going to start marking down each of the paints as we put them in. Or we started marking them down, and you're going to see me go through this. I'm going to run this. It's kind of fun at 2,000 speed, which is ludicrous speed. And as I fill these palettes up. All right, so there we go. There's the palette all filled up, and now the next thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to run this at ludicrous speed also. You only need a little bit of this paint. This tray of paint will probably last you a year, with the exception of a few of them that you might use a lot of. So this is quite a bit, and out of the 20 paints there, as you can imagine, if you paid, just say 10 feet there, between $7 and $15 a tube. So you can do the math. We'll just say 10 by 20. That's $200 worth of paint. So we're going to go through ludicrous speed here, and you'll see I'm going to paint each color out in the wash. I've written them down. So this is a reference that goes with that palette that I'm sending out to Jordy. And I won't go over the colors in this because it's insane to do that. But you can see that I'm just using a very light wash, and in between each time that I'm making sure I have a clean brush. You notice I had 2 glasses of water there. So I'll use the 1 glass of water to wash it off, and then I'll finish it off with the second one and wipe it on a paper towel. So we don't get any color mixes in here. We're not trying to do a color chart like we did in the number 2 lesson or the number 1. But I would recommend, Jordy, that you set up a chart like the first of those, and you cross these colors over and see what you can get with this palette. This is kind of a strange palette, but it is the Roy G. Biv palette, plus a few added at the end. So colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, and violet. Colors of the rainbow. Now there's some stuff missing. These are all primary colors, and you can mix anything from the primary colors. Now there's some stuff in here that we should have had, some burnt umber, burnt sienna, things like that. I think we put some sepia in there, but those are good landscaping colors, and you can build a landscaping palette. In fact, a lot of folks work in shades of gray. So a lot of Payne's gray mixed with a lot of other colors to get their palette. This is kind of a bright palette, a little bit higher, and obviously the stuff that I would recommend to start with is things like Christmas cards, simple landscape scenes, and that sort of thing. And then you can develop your own palette, and then your palette will evolve over the years depending on what your mood is and what you're painting. You know, they talk about different artists and their blue period and their yellow period and their realism period and that sort of stuff. So if you're to paint, and just like carving, if you do it for 40 or 50 years, your style kind of evolves over time. But this is just a quick color chart that's set up, and it's set up to tell you what colors are in there. And Jordy has all these colors in his thing. And this says right on the top there, Jordy's color palette. So I'm taking, and some of these have dried a little bit too much, but I'm pulling out some of the color to show you a little bit lighter. And I could have went over these, but you see, that's just pulling the pigment out of there. And that's the beauty of watercolor. It's kind of pastel. It's transparent. And I talked over myself, and there's Jordy's color palette. So this is all run at 2,000 speed.
Ready to go.
Which, again, is ludicrous. I've never done that before. I didn't, my intention was not to have Jordy paint point by point, but to give him a concept, to give him an idea and let him experiment. He's a good painter. I've seen his paints before. I think they were probably acrylics or oils, some of the stuff he was doing. So here's 2 cards I'll throw in there and send along with them. They're not pretty. They're painted fast. One's a tree on the left with different colors thrown in there. And the one on the right is the gnomes that we've been doing that caused all this trouble and that sort of thing. And 2,000 times, and like I said, I've never ran ludicrous speed like this, and it gets kind of choppy, but it is kind of fun. So this guy, we gave mittens, we gave feet. You can carve him. I went back and did a little bit of work. I spilled some red on the corner there, so I added a present to it. I put a little bit of a background in to make it not quite so boring. I did the star, and now I'm pulling them off. So remember, I put the tape on my leg and took some of the bite off of it, so because it will tear the watercolor paper. And if you do that, and you can pull it off carefully away from the edge, typically you don't have to deal with these things burning up on you or tearing into the paper. Now, if it does tear into the paper, what you can do is put a little water on it and tamp it down, or hopefully it might be in the part where you would put some masking on it. So there's 2 banged out, same color palette Jordy has. 2 more of those. There's my gray hair sticking in there. When I get home, I'm down in Iowa painting this. When I get home, I've got the setups coming for it. I'm going to put a camera up above my pad, and we'll crank out some watercolor paintings for the watercolor series. And there's the 2 yucky cards with Jordy Johnson's color palette. So, hey, this has been great. That's his palette. That's his color deal that's going on. If you want to follow along, pick out your own colors, Roy G. Biv. I wouldn't recommend you go buy all these colors. A few of them will work. But, hey, here's the start of something fun. Jordy can use it on his channel or his new art channel, or not use them at all. It'll be kind of fun. And I already know he can paint. So, hey, thanks a lot. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake.